Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am King David. I was asked by Dr. Williams to come and tell you a little about my story. You must recognize, of course, that I am 3,000 years old. You would expect me to be dead by now, but nevertheless, I wanted to come and tell a bit about my story. I have to tell you this, that I had been very successful with all of the battles that I had fought, all of the enemies around the country. I now was in control. And so I had planned to, Joab was my nephew. He was my military man. I mean, he was great. But I decided that I wanted to get him an assistant who could help him. And so I went to the Hittites because they were a powerful nation. And I talked to the king and I said, I would like to have a man who could be second only to my Joab. And so what they did, they had a man named Uriah the Hittite. And so he came, I hired him, a great man. He married one of the wives of Jewish wives. And so he came and it was so effective. I mean, of course, Joab and he made a duel. And as a result of that, I decided that I'm not going to fight this year. Now, you see, you have to understand that we only fight in the winter. In the summer. We don't fight in the winter because it's difficult. It's mud and rain and, a horse can slip, a chariot can turn over. So we always waited until the rains. Usually they ended in May. And so this year I thought, I'm not going to the battle because there was only one city to be conquered. That was Rabat Ammon. It's the capital of Jordan today. And so I knew that Uriah and my Joab could do it. And so, you see, now, when it's summer, it's very hot and very difficult because, you see, it gets hot, and at 1 o'clock, everything dies down. The Mediterranean cities today do that. It's a kind of a siesta they take. Most people get up at 5 o'clock to work, and they get off at 1 because 1 to 3 is kind of bad. So everybody just takes a nap. The stores close and all of that kind of thing. Well, I got out of bed that morning, and so I was sure happy. Jerusalem flows to the south, to the west, to the east, and the north that's where my palace is. That's where 26 times in history they've taken Jerusalem, but always from the front, except the 1967 war. The Jews took it from the side they didn't expect. So I thought I'm going to make an inspection because people hadn't been able to be in the summer. So I was looking at the people. They were getting up and they were stretching. And of course, we had 4-room houses. There were 3 parallel, one across the back. That was the back. The middle room didn't have a roof because that was where you work. If it's not too hot, you can work outside, but if it rains, you can go into other buildings. And so I was looking as I passed along, and I was looking at everybody, and there's a woman there that's taking a bath. She's in that middle room, and nobody down at that level can see her, but I think she turned her eyes and looked at me once. I wonder who she is. Valet, come. Look, I want you to see that 4th Street and the 3rd house in. Would you go and find out who lives there? Well, she said, okay. And so he came back and he told me, well, that's where Uriah the Hittite lives. Oh, yes. He's 30 miles away. Send me one of the palace guard. Listen, I want you to go down to the 4th Street, 3rd house in, and ask that lady to come, that I'm inviting her to come. You see, Uriah is 30 miles away. And so Bathsheba came. Bathsheba, I haven't really met you. You are a beautiful woman. Very beautiful. I tell you, we're so happy with your husband. He's doing so well on the battlefield, and it's nice to get acquainted with you. Well, friends, I have to tell you that in my day, kings did what they wanted to do. Kings could they're always right, and in a weak moment, I invited her to spend the night. It's too late for you to go. You can just stay. Well, I now had to cover it up. I don't want anybody to know. I've got to make sure that I'm the right kind of an example. Now let's see, what do I have to do? I've got to decide something. I don't know what to do. Oh, yes, this is Wednesday. Tomorrow is that young private we hired who's boy, he runs like a rabbit. I mean, he can cover 30 miles in one day, and he's a private. He's long and you know, lanky, and sure enough, he came, and he comes to give me what's going on the battlefield once a week. I said, sit down, young man. You know, I really appreciate you. I'm so dependent upon times like you where you can come and tell me I haven't been on the battlefield for so long. And I tell you, I want to do something special for you. Now look, when you go back, oh, that's right, you came to tell me about the war. Okay, yeah, tell me. Oh, yes, well, I expected that. But there's something more important, you see. I want to give you a week off. Yes, a week off. You tell Joab that he's the one that you need to tell that I want Uriah the Hittite to come and do your job. He looked at me like, you don't take a lieutenant general to do a private's job. But I had to get her home. So you do that, and you make sure that my nephew, Joab, sends Uriah the Hittite back. Well, I tell you, when the day came, it was supposed to be Thursday. I went out and looked at the valley and up at the Mount Zion, and he didn't come. I thought, oh my, what's going to happen? I wonder if he fell or was robbed, but I didn't realize, of course, his age. And so finally on Friday, he made it, and there he comes. Wonderful. Oh, I've got to get him here. Yes, Uriah. And they'll bring him. Hey, Uriah, come. Oh my, I'm so happy to see you. Please, I want you to sit in my chair. Right, just sit there. And Uriah, I'm so happy. I mean, I know that Joab has been much more careful about his fighting because you were there. And I just wanted to be so thankful to you and appreciate you. I know that you're very, very tired because you made it. It took you a little longer. But I think it is wise for you not to go back like normally they do. I think you'd better go home and wash your feet. That's a euphemism. And all right, he said, I'll go. But I found out he didn't go. He stayed. I want to talk to Uriah. Bring him in. Uriah, I sent a gift after you. I wanted you to rest with your wife. Why didn't you do it? He said, oh, sir, I have quit worshiping Jeshub, who is our God, and now I'm worshiping the Lord. And I know the law says that if there is a royal battle, that I'm not to go home with my wife. Oh, I didn't know you were converted. Oh, I see. Well, Uriah, I want you to come to have a private meal with me. Tonight, yes, tonight. And you'll be here at 6 o'clock. And he said, all right. So, man, I had to go back. I had to get my special punch. I had a recipe, and I put a bowl here, and I poured in, and so I took a little alcohol. I spiked it. And, Uriah, you're here. Come. We'll have the meal a little later, but I want you to come and have a part in my special punch. Here, yeah. You can I'll give you a glass. Here, have it. Yes. You can drink it. Oh, it's good, isn't it? Yeah. He'll give you another one, huh? Yes. Oh, and how about another one? It's good. You can sit down just a minute. I want you to take him to his house. And so I thought, now I've done it. He had to go home. But he didn't go home. He stayed with the palace guard. Uh-oh, somebody has informed him. Now what do I do? He's got to go back. I didn't sleep all night. Valet, bring me a clay tablet. And so what I did was I put a letter to David, to my Joab, and I said, Joab, I want you to put Uriah in the forefront of the hottest battle. I want you to give him a code to tell everybody to retreat, and I want you to put him right where the defense is strong, and I want one death. I want you to watch carefully and have him out front, and then you see him and he dies, call code 7. And so that was my instruction, and I gave it to him to take back, knowing that there was an envelope he couldn't break open. And so Joab got the message, but he altered what I told him. I had it fixed out how I would have one casualty, and I found out later, he changed it. I didn't think about he wouldn't want to make one of the other men feel that he had betrayed them, and then others would betray him, so he altered it. What he did was he just waited until that several men died because they were hit. He didn't retreat quickly enough, and finally he saw Uriah die. Code 7! And now he tells this messenger, I want you to tell King David exactly what happened. Tell him the truth. When he gets mad, you know why we get mad? Because he changed it. When he gets mad, you don't need to know why. Just tell him Uriah the Hittite is dead. You don't need to know. So he came and told me how the people were dying, and I was getting red at the face. I was ready to say, why didn't he listen to what I said? He said, sir, Uriah the Hittite is dead. Oh, some live by the sword, some die by the sword. And tell him to continue. And so now I had a man killed. Well, what happened is that Bathsheba had 7 days to mourn. And after the 7 days were mourning, I brought her into the palace. And so she came, and now we're husband and wife. Well, something about it, there was no contact on one day. Oh, it must have been 7 months later. No contact. I don't have anything to do. I'm surprised. This is unusual. My schedule is really packed normally. I really don't understand that. Who's that? I'm not to have any callers today. Nathan, the prophet of the Lord. Come, Nathan, come. You haven't been here for months. Please take this chair and sit down. I know you've come to tell me something about the Lord, what he wants me to do. It's been so long. You've been gone. You want to tell me what the Lord... No, you don't want to tell me that? Oh, but it's been so long since I've heard from you. What? You want to tell me about a rich man? Oh, because of this war effort, it's getting difficult because so many people are being wealthy. And how big a wealth does he? Oh, he has hundreds of sheep and goats and everything you could imagine. Well, some are getting wealthy, but he has a neighbor who's very poor. Oh my, some are missing out on the economic bust we have here. And he's so poor, he has what? One little female lamb. Really? Yes, and it's a pet? Oh my goodness, that's interesting. And you say it eats with him at the table, this lamb? Well, he's really made a friend of that. And what? He goes to bed with it? Well, that's amazing. I couldn't imagine something like that. And then he said, David, you're that man. And what is more? No, I have to tell you first what happened. I said, that man should have not killed that one. And he stood up and said, you're that man. Sorry. Go, Nathan. I've got to pray. I've got to pray to God. God. Oh, merciful God, bring your mercy upon me. I've been sinful day and night. That has been heavy on me. Oh, I was born in iniquity even before my mother gave birth to me. But you want truth in the inner parts. You don't want pretense. Oh, God, wash me with hyssop and I shall be clean. Make me whiter than snow. Give me back my joy again. I have been so isolated. Well, that was part of my Psalm 51 that I wrote. But of the 93 that I wrote, I wrote the 32nd one. Let me tell you what it was. Oh, the blessedness of those whose sin has been forgiven. There was a time I wouldn't admit what a sinner I was. And you saved me. But I have to tell you that I pronounced my own judgment. I had 4 sons that died. And this is what happened to the baby. Bathsheba gave her birth. And now I mention. And so I am sorry that I lost my first child, the baby. Well, now, my eldest son is Amnon. Now, Amnon was, he was a poor student. And he brought his spelling paper home one day. Did I tell you about that? He brought his spelling paper home. And he spelled love, L-U-S-T, and thought it was spelled correctly. Well, he fell in love with Absalom's sister, Tamar. And he couldn't get to them because they were virgins and they wore different garments and they were kept out of these men who kind of want to abuse them. And so he was walking along. Now he was a half brother to her, and so he was walking along the road, and my nephew came to him and he said, he was his friend, and he said, you look bad today. What's the matter with you? I said, well, I would like to get in with Tamar, and I can't. Well, he said, you look sick. I'll tell you what to do. You go ask your father to let you have Tamar to serve your breakfast, and he'll do that. Well, I didn't know. I said, yes, you can go. And so she is fixing the breakfast. He's in bed, and he says to his staff, get out of here, clear the room. And so she says, well, I have your breakfast ready. Well, Amnon said, I'm too sick. Please come and deliver it to me. And then when she got close, he grabbed her by the arm and says, come on, get in bed with me, my darling. Oh, no, please don't do this. Amnon, you ask our father, he will give me to you. And he knew I wouldn't, she knew he. And so she was trying to get away. And he said, I want you to get out of here. Oh, please don't do that to me. That's worse than what you did to my body. Please don't do that. And valet, get this thing out and take her out. Some love, huh? And so she ran all of the way to her brother's house. And he said, did he rape you? Yes. Well, don't worry. It's all in the family. But he hated the ground that Amnon walked on. And so he was determined to get to him and to kill him. But it took 2 years for him to decide. And so as a result, he came to me and he said to me, I am going to have a sheep shearing going on, and I want you to come, David. I said, oh, I can't do that. I just don't have the time. But I tell you, Absalom, I can't do it. He said, well, please let Amnon come. Why Amnon? Well, I just wanted to have this situation. I said, well, look, I'll send all of the sons, and then they can go. And so I didn't realize, but here's what happened. Absalom said to his men. All right, men, Amnon is here. I'm fixing a bowl of special punch, and I'm going to put alcohol in it. Oh, God, my sin is coming back to haunt me. And I want you to kill Amnon for what he did. And so son number 2 died. Well, let me tell you that Absalom fled. He went across to his in-laws, and I let him soak for 3 years. I wasn't going to invite him back. No, I should have behaved. I should have talked to them. I should have been more like a father, but I couldn't forgive him. And so I didn't call him back. Well, Joab got involved. And Joab had this woman of Tekoa to come and tell him. And she came, and of course I didn't know why. And she said, well, I need a ruling, sir. I have 2 sons. They fought, and one was killed, and there's one left. Now, all of the other family and all of those think that I ought to put to death this one. But if I do, I don't have any children, and I'm an old woman. Well, I will pass a note to you that you will not have to let go of that son. She says, excuse me, sir, why can't you allow your son to come back? Did Joab talk to you? That's what I thought. All right, I'll talk to Joab. Joab, I will let Absalom come, but I will not look on his face. And for 2 years, I wouldn't look at him because I had unforgiveness in my heart. And I wouldn't look at him at all. And I just couldn't. And so finally, Absalom set Joab's field on fire, got his attention. I want to be back with my father. And so Joab allowed it. And so I just act like it hadn't happened anymore, you know. And so now it was about, a few years. Actually, it was a matter of 4 years. I was taking cases and having to solve them, and I didn't know it, but Absalom was outside the door. He was outside the gate, and he would find the one that I ruled against. You know, I'm in favor of you, but I'll have to tell you, you have to go. So he would say, what happened in there? What did my father do? Well, he ruled against me. That's right. You know, it happens every time. When I become king, I want you to support me because I would vote for you. He did that day after day, week after week, month after month, because I wouldn't forgive him. And he did it so much that finally I didn't know what was all going on, and I was sitting down, and suddenly he came in, and he said, Father, I want to go to Hebron. Why do you want to go to Hebron? Well, you know, when I was across the way, I made a promise to God that I would have to go to Hebron to do it. Oh, well, you got religious. Okay, that's all right. Well, I didn't know. You know, he had a whole army virtually, and he was ready to pull it off. And everybody he's made think that this is a transition, and it isn't. He's usurping power. I didn't have anything to do. I've got to leave. I talked to all of the people of Jerusalem. I can't stay here. My son is rebelling against me, so I will leave, but you people can stay if you want, but I'll have to just go. And I left my palace. I went down in the Kidron Valley. I went up on the Mount of Olives, and I turned around, and everybody is following me. Everybody, they didn't want to stay. And suddenly a man came to me and he said, Sir, I found out that Ahithophel is going to shift from you. He's one of my great advisors, and he's going to support your son, your brother. And anyway, no, he's the wisest one. I don't know what I'll do. I know he will tell Absalom to do the thing that will finish me, because he was the grandfather of Bathsheba. Ahithophel, you're one of my advisors. You know, because I'm worried about now what he will do. But would you go back and pretend to be loyal to Amnon, so that to this rebellious son, and then maybe that'll work. And so what occurred? He was leaving, and finally he walks into the room and into the gate. The gate was left open. Oh, he's not fighting. So he came in and he said, Ahithophel said to him, now look, he said, Ahithophel, I want you to give me advice of what I should do. He said, look up there. 10 of the wives of David has been put up there, and you go in and have sex with them, and that will purely cut the difference between them. And so he did it. And they said, now what should I do? Well, all right, David, here's what I suggest you do, that you let me go kill him, and I will take over for you, and I will kill him, and I will come back with all of the others, and you will have your kingdom. He said, well, I appreciate that, but I hear that Hushai, he's loyal to me too. Hushai, this is what your advisor, the fellow, said. And so I want you to tell me what you would think. He said, oh, you should wait time. You should get all of the people on your side, and then you can go, and you will be the winner. And he appealed to his opening, and so he waited, and he said, I will go with what Hushai says. This man that was the grandfather went home, put his house in order. He knew it was gone, that he would not be able, and he went out and hanged himself. Now, what happened? The battle went against my son, and he was fleeing, and he was on a mule, and he knew that he was being chased, and he looked back, and he didn't see anybody, but he was looking back as the mule was running, and he fell into the low-hanging branches of a tree, and was yanked off of his mule, and there he hung helplessly. And 3 of the men, because you see what I had told the men, don't kill Absalom. Absalom is a special boy to me. I should have been more friendly to him, but I wasn't. But please save him. Don't kill him. Well, 3 of the men of Joab, there he is, hanging in the tree. We can't kill him because David said not to. So they went back and told Joab. Joab said, where is he? Well, he's hanging in a tree out. Tell me where he is. And he walked out, and he pulled 3 arrows out of his quiver, and he shot them 3 times into him, my son, and he died. They shot his heart. Oh, Absalom, my son, Absalom, I wish I had been better to you. Well, Joab came to me, and he says, I don't understand you, because here some men were brave to save your life, and now you're crying about a son that rebelled you. Why can't you get over it? Well, okay, so I did, but it was my 3rd son, and there's 1 more to come. Well, let me tell you, I was getting old, of course, and so I just didn't know what I should do, because now I have to contend with age, and so it had happened that I couldn't get warm. And so my advisors said, well, let's throw blankets over him. And so they did, and they put comforts, and I couldn't warm myself. So now they decided to hold a Miss Israel contest to get the most voluptuous young virgin that could help warm my body. And so they found Abishag. She was near where the that witch that was talking to Saul. It was on the other side. They weren't close. And so she's a beautiful woman, but she had never been with a man. And so they tried to see if she could warm my body. You don't realize that was a euphemism for bearing another son. And when a king could not any longer procreate, he had to give up his throne. And so that was the end of it, and it was not possible to me to continue to live. And so now Nathan goes to Bathsheba, and he says, do you know that the oldest son he's taking over from the throne? And so you'd better tell your husband, and you know that the Lord told you that Solomon would be your king, and so we better make David aware of it. So they finally told me, and I said, all right, bring Solomon in, and I will make him king. And so he came, and of course I gave him the right. And so now, what occurred immediately is this son suddenly realized that he is not going to be king, and he immediately goes to the horned altar and grabs on the horns of the altar. And Solomon told him he'd be all right. He didn't have to worry about it. He would be free. And so now he decided that I'm going to ask Bathsheba for a special thing. He went into Bathsheba and he said, now, Bathsheba, listen, I know you know that I was the oldest son, but and you said that God had told you that Solomon would be the king, and I accept that. But I wanted you to ask Solomon if I could have Abishag. She's about my age. If I could have her for wife. She says, well, I'll ask Solomon. And so when she asked Solomon, he went in to ask Solomon. Solomon said, Mother, why are you here? Well, I wanted to make a request. Oh, I will give you anything you want. What is it you like? Well, I was thinking about Adonijah. He's the oldest son. He would like to have Abishag to be his wife. What? Mother, don't you realize that's a movement on the throne? She's having sex with one of my wives that were mine. And so Adonijah had to be put to death as well. Well, there's the fourth son, the punishment that I had. Now, let me tell you about what happened. Of course, half of what Solomon wrote is all about the new temple. And that would be one of the 9 best buildings in the history, because it had gold and silver. Oh, it was a beautiful building. And so now what happened was that Solomon's wives kind of pulled him away from the Lord. He's going to say had 1,000 or more. The thing is that these wives were virtually living in widowhood. But they are all treaty arrangements, because a father wants a daughter to be in a harem so that there would be no war. And so all of this overrun was really a problem, because people couldn't pay their taxes. They were so high. And then Solomon had to have some men who would take care of these growing groups that couldn't raise enough money to pay their taxes. And so, this is bad, 2,000 years old, you can't get out of a chair. And so, actually, what happened was that he hired Jeroboam. Jeroboam was one of these men that lived in the 10 northern tribes. He was sympathetic with them, and those are the ones that were being hardest about living. And so, and there was a prophet who came to him. He had a new coat on, and he tore it up into, he didn't say anything, he tore it up into 12 pieces. He gave 10 to Jeroboam, and he kept 2, and he said, you will be king of the 10 northern tribes when you die. And so Abijah was this man, and he said that you will be king. Well, of course, that went around, and when it did, Solomon wanted to find him, but he fled to Egypt. And Egypt gave him asylum because he must have been unhappy with what's happening to his daughter. Normally, it was an arrangement. And so as a result, he fled to Egypt and got the asylum that he had, that he wanted. Well, that brings us to the story of 5, 6, 7, and 8 chapters that we've studied. And so for you who are students, you know what to expect now, because some of what I told you will be on the test. Thank you for attending me. I think we have some guests today. I appreciate you being with us as well. You are excused. You are free to go. Hey, did you like that? Good. Wonderful. Pardon me? Yeah, king for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. I've had this on all day. going to get rid of it. It hurts because I'm pulling out the roots. Oh my. Some special people back here. Oh goodness. How long has it been since I saw you? I think we were in Anderson at Church of God.